And also put your hands together for our final competitor today from Onyx Coffee Labs, Lance Hedrick. Lance, let's bring your judges. They're coming in right here. Go ahead and say hello to them.
Thanks for coming.
All right, you know the deal.
Cool. All right, y'all ready? Cool. Let's cue music. Cool. Ready? And 3, 2, 1, go. Progress is driven by innovation, and innovation stems from inspiration. This competition is a catalyst to progress by pushing baristas to think outside of the box, presenting coffees in fresh, inventive ways. But that all requires inspiration. And at times, it can be difficult to find the inspiration, to challenge, to explore, and to experiment. Yet, at other times, it seems to hit you right in the face. Now, the first time I cupped this coffee, it hit me right in the face. I knew immediately I wanted to serve this coffee to you all today. Now, it's typically taught in regard to brewing, there exists a scale from body to clarity. And the more you're able to achieve of one, the less you can therefore get of the other. And to my memory, I've never really called that into question because, well, it's typically rung true in my experience. But this coffee wouldn't let me settle for that. I had to find a way to serve you a cup that had an exceptional body and exquisite clarity. It inspired me to try to overturn that maxim and to do something new and fresh. Now today, I'm excited to present to you all this coffee. It's a Colombian geisha from Serra Azul, and every detail about it informs the final cup. Grown at 1,850 meters above sea level, this coffee is incredibly sweet. Being of the geisha varietal, this coffee is extremely floral. And finally, having undergone the XO process, which is essentially a pressurized lactic process, this coffee, it shows off exquisite fruit characteristics. Now, I'd like the judges to make a note right now that when I serve the coffee, I'd like for you all to observe it equally from the cup and spoon, and when evaluating the body, directly from the cup. Now, when I first hand you this coffee, you're going to smell an aroma marked by hibiscus, raspberry, and floral honey. When I serve the coffee to you all, when it's at its hottest, you're going to taste raspberry, plum, coffee blossom, honey, and you'll taste hibiscus at every temperature, as well as apple juice at every temperature. When the temperature cools to warm, you're going to taste cran apple, white grape, and sweet tea. And when it's all the way cooled, down around 80 degrees, you're going to taste raspberry iced tea. Into that aftertaste, at its hottest, you're going to get apple juice once more, and more raspberry. As it cools to that warm temperature in the aftertaste, that apple juice will morph into a white grape juice, and that raspberry will sweeten to raspberry sweet tea. And it cools all the way down, there will be a lingering raspberry sweet tea, and that white grape juice will turn into white wine. Now the acidity, when it's at its hottest, is citric, like lime, malic, like a pink apple, and tart, like a raspberry. As it cools, the malic acidity increases and the citric decreases, like a cran apple. And as it continues to cool, it becomes slightly tartaric, like a white wine. Now the body, at its hottest, is like warm nectar. It's medium in weight, silky, vibrant, and juicy. Then as it cools, it becomes mouth-watering and refreshing like an iced tea. Now my recipe today is 15 grams of coffee ground on the number value 7 to 220 milliliters of water, heated to 198 degrees Fahrenheit, giving me roughly a 1 to 14.7 ratio and a 2-minute 45-second brew time. To begin, I'm pouring 40 grams of water over the bed of grounds, and immediately after, I'm stirring it rapidly with a stir stick. Now the purpose of this pour is to fully saturate and completely degas all of the grounds prior to my second pour. Now before diffusion can begin to occur, all of the CO2 must be emitted from that dry bed. Diffusion is that process by which we're able to pull out those sugars and acids from inside the grounds out. So in order to ensure a full even saturation, I'm making sure that I'm wetting it rapidly and stirring it intensely. You'll notice the efforts of this in the balance of that final cup. At 45 seconds, I'm pouring 90 grams of water vigorously into the center of the bed. And once more, I'm taking that stir stick, I'm stirring it vigorously. Now, at this phase in the extraction, those acids that are perceived in the final cup as those fruitiness, as those fruit notes, and as that sweet aroma are emphasized. So, I want to manipulate the variables I can control to pull as many of those out. On top of that, I'm forcing all of the particulates into suspension to discharge as many fines as I can through that mesh filter and into the paper filter for subsequent removal. Now, my idea for this brew centers on the role fines play in the production of body and clarity. Because of their exposed surface area, fines extract quickly, giving off readily those oils and acids that make up a phenomenal tactile experience. But for the same exact reason, they also over-extract quickly, muddling any clarity that might be achieved during a brew. So my idea was simple. I wanted to use fines at the beginning of the extraction to enhance the tactile experience, and then I wanted to get rid of them before they were able to ruin my clarity. And this idea of a double filtration immediately came to mind. I'd be able to use this mesh filter with its porosity to discharge the fines through, and then I'd be able to switch out paper filters prior to finishing my pour. And this would allow me to overcome that antagonism between body and clarity and make it a harmonious relationship. Now, at 2.5 minutes, I'm finishing my brew with a 90 gram pour directly into the center once more, heightening agitation with my kettle. Now, if you're able to notice, the drawdown here is extremely quick, and that's because I've removed the majority of those fines with that last maneuver. What this allows me to do is to add agitation near the end of the brew, which would typically cause a lot of bitters to come out. But in this case, it's allowing me to complete the extraction of those complex sugars, sweetening the final cup. Now, judges, today I decided to brew on a conical brew device to quicken that drawdown, allowing me to manipulate agitation without the fear of over-extraction. This allowed me to do all the things I was able to do with switching out those fines and continuing the brew, allowing that quick, rapid drawdown to take away from any bitterness. So in that bloom, I was able to give us balance in the final cup. With that second pour, I was able to heighten the acidity, which you'll see in the aroma and in that fruitiness. And on top of that, I was able to add a phenomenal tactile experience by extracting those fines aggressively early on. After that, I removed the majority of the fines, which allowed me to clean the final cup up. And following that last pour sweetened the cup by pulling out those complex sugars. Now, at this time, judges, I'm going to ask that you'll observe the aroma directly from the decanter. After this, I'll serve the coffee for you. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare a visual presentation so you can see what was going on behind the curtains. Please return the decanters. Thank you. Now, judges, in a typical 15-gram dose, I pull out about 2 grams of fines on an EK43. If I were to dehydrate this first filter, these are the filters from the last brew I did. If I were to dehydrate this, I'd get about 1.5 grams of fines that I was able to successfully remove, and less than 1/4 of a gram on the last. I wanted you would be able to see what was going on behind that curtain to see that this hypothesis was actually able to ring true. Now, judges, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that this coffee that has inspired me to innovate can do the same for you all, and together we can progress as a coffee community. Thank you so much. Time.
All right, Lance Hedrick from Onyx Coffee Lab. Lance, excellent job. How you feeling now?
Feel good, feel good. It's over.
Heck yeah, that was an amazing presentation.
Thank you very much.
You have an amazing group of people here supporting you, and all this crowd is just exciting. Probably because you're the last competitor today, but you know
Yeah,
what they
probably
say.
just tired.
Yeah, well, you know what they say about best is last and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's all a lie. That's
Well, this was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Because I think a lot of us are now familiar with the idea of sifting coffee grounds, right? To
For
try
sure.
and achieve some type of uniformity within the particulate size.
Absolutely.
You're taking this to a whole different level.
Trying to.
And tell us about how you arrived at this conclusion, because this is, to me, beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So I've been working on it for about 3 months. It started off with the idea of I wanted to overturn that body and clarity. A lot of people like to cruve coffee, pulling those fines out, but those coffees, while they may be really sweet, typically have no body.
Yeah.
And so that's something I've always enjoyed in my coffee, is a really nice tactile experience. I wanted to be able to present that, and so I continued tinkering with it, knowing I couldn't get rid of fines. So I tried weird stuff like I would take a V60, I would cruve the fines out, I would brew the majority of the coffee, and I'd put an AeroPress filter like on top of the bed and add the fines there, tried to bypass a lot of the bed, you know, just like trying weird stuff, and nothing really worked. So then I ran into this. I saw a friend of mine, Ray Murakawa, playing with doing double filtration stuff. He's a Melodrip guy. Okay. And the idea clicked. I was like, actually, I could use that double filtration. I could discharge fines through the holes, because those holes allow things around 400 microns and under to get through. Yeah. I could use that, discharge those fines, and then I'd be able to both use and discard fines prior to the end of a brew. So
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you're treating the filter like exactly what it is, a filter, and there's so many different like levels of filtration you can achieve. And so you're kind of making that happen during the brew process itself, and that's like so cool to me, because I mean, I love brewing coffee too. So the coffee, Cerro Azul, Colombia, Geisha.
Yep.
Pretty popular at Onyx right now?
Well, Andrea's used it in some capacity for the past, I think, 6 years in competition.
Ah.
So yeah,
right.
yeah. So
Yeah. The other thing
trying
was
to be like my hero. So
that's good. I love that. I noticed the brew seemed like it was a pretty small brew. Like it looked like pretty right at that limit. I mean, is that with a lot of experimentation? I mean, you found like that was probably like you're probably reaching like some type of limit with this type of method.
With all the agitation I included, I needed it to be an extremely fast drawdown. So first off, I went to a conical brew device. The type doesn't really matter. It's all about the filter, because it barely sits on the edges anyway. But I needed something conical to make that drawdown quick, because I needed to add a lot of agitation. So the more shallow the brew bed, the faster the drawdown, the less time there is for that water to over extract my average grind size. So I needed to be as fast as possible while also getting enough coffee to serve. And so, yeah, I landed on 15 in, 220 out, which gives me a yield of about 180 grams, 180 milliliters. So, yeah.
And what, did you notice any type of extraction yield percentages, like increase or decrease with your ability to do this as you were experimenting?
Oh, sure. Different coffees are way different. Like this extracts around a 1.6, but I had coffees that would go up to like a 1.8 with the same exact recipe, or some down to like a 1.4. So it really exposes the solubility of a coffee when brewing it this quickly. If you were able to see it like drain extraordinarily quick, especially that last pour. So if it's not soluble, it's going to be really low TDS. If it's really soluble, it could be super high. So
that's awesome. Well, everyone, Lance Hedrick from Onyx Coffee Lab. I want to give you one chance to say thank you and a quick shout out to anyone that helped get where you are at today.
Thank you, John and Andrea. Super supportive, best people to work for. Yep.
All right, everyone, Lance Hedrick from Onyx Coffee Lab. Lance, good job. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That was our last competitor for this afternoon here on the Brewers Cup stage.